Hi everyone. So I think we have to talk about the most important investment that a lot of people completely disregard. This is far more important than any individual company investment, piece of real estate, and far more important than any bet on cryptocurrency. If I lose my investment portfolio, well, that would suck, but at least I would have my health. But if I lose my health, that's it. I have not much left after that. So I believe our health and mental capacity to make money is the most important asset we have. So I think the most important investment, without a doubt, is medical insurance. Let me tell you a story about why this is so important. After hearing this story recently, I realized how this stuff should really be taught in school. It's far more important than poetry or trigonometry, and in my opinion, there is a serious lack of financial education in schools throughout the world. Not just basic investing education, but everyday life financial education. I have friends who are lawyers, nurses, and even financial consultants that are awful at looking after their own finances. Look, I better not go down this rabbit hole as this video will go on for like an hour. Now let me tell you the story about a friend of mine and her situation that prompted me to make this video. Okay, so this friend of mine was married, had a child, and her husband was working to support her lifestyle and her child. She wasn't working and chose to look after the child at home. So look, this is a pretty normal situation so far. Before they were married, he would buy her nice clothes and gifts, but as she got a little older, well, these things unfortunately stopped. Now, things didn't work out between them because he actually met an attractive 22-year-old and like, he's a bad guy, but that doesn't matter. So she needed to go back to work, which wasn't the easiest thing to find. She also then had to dramatically downgrade her lifestyle and move into a smaller apartment. Look, nothing too dramatic so far. This stuff happens all the time, right? But unfortunately, her mother and father, they both passed away within the same year. It's actually within a few months. They were reasonably wealthy and left behind a decent amount of money, but that was going to run out after about 5 years, we predicted. And she didn't know how to manage the money she got from her mother and father, and her future all of a sudden became really unclear. So she was a single mother without much support left in her life. Now you might be thinking, well, she can work and it will all be fine. But what happens if something bad happens to her now? I mean, she's a single mother without parents and no financial support from her husband. What happens to her child if she is, say, in a car accident or gets a bad illness or something means she cannot work anymore? And we all know these types of things can happen. Now, look, I don't want to sound too insensitive here, but I thought she was being very irresponsible when she was telling me all of this. See, of course, her husband leaving her and her parents passing are devastating things to happen so quickly. But when I asked if she had health insurance or a plan if she can't work anymore, she said no. She hadn't even thought about it. So there is no doubt in my mind, she is being irresponsible. Now I'll go through the advice I gave to her and pushed her to get these things organized. She was able to access the money and assets left behind by her parents. It wasn't much, but it was enough to get organized. Look, I'm no expert here, but the first thing I said to do was she needs to get good health insurance for herself and her child. But look, I'm in Ukraine, where no one trusts the health insurance companies to actually make a claim when the time comes. If you live in a first world country like America or the UK, Australia, Japan, Singapore, it is irresponsible of you not to get good medical insurance. Medical insurance is totally acceptable with reputable providers. And if you don't live in one of these countries and you don't trust your local insurance companies, then it is irresponsible of you not to have a good, healthy emergency fund. See, an emergency fund is a pile of cash or something similar to cash that you can access quickly in times of an emergency. It has to be enough to solve your problems. Okay, now this is how I think about how to calculate how much is enough. Now what I do is I think about my living costs for a year. For me, in Ukraine, I can live off about $20,000 if I had to. That would cover my rent, utilities, food, and internet. Then I calculate any sort of serious operation costs just in case I'm hit by a car or something. So that is about another $20,000, which should get me transported back to Australia and taken care of for a while in hospital. Now, $40,000 is a lot to just hold on to, and I still pay good international travel insurance, which is about $1,500 a year, with a reputable Australian-based insurance company. That $40,000 is so I don't have to wait for the insurance claim to be assessed and then paid out to me. I can just get reimbursed later. The last thing I want is to be sitting in a hospital in Ukraine waiting for my Australian insurance company to pay up. People living without an emergency fund are living life like a gambler. Although these events are unlikely, I'm sure someone you know has been affected by a disability or a traumatic event like a car accident. Having no emergency fund is one of the riskiest things someone can do. Now, in my case, as an individual without children or a partner, I need enough money for myself. But if I ever want children, well, I'm a bad father for not having emergency money for my children. Simple as that. It's a scary thought to have children and gamble with their health without having the ability to support them if they needed it. Another situation that happens all the time for those who haven't sorted an emergency fund is when a friend has a big issue. They try to raise money from their friends and family. Now look, I don't want to be that person. I'll save my own money and look after my loved ones myself. I know my friends go on holidays, save up for a car, go shopping for nice clothes, reserve tables at fancy restaurants, and show off how successful they are. What am I going to think when something dramatic happens and they need to ask me for money to help with their child's operation? Look, I'm not heartless. I'll probably still help, but I'll lose some respect for them. They were not thinking about their financial security enough. So let's be honest here as well. This is a terrible dinner party conversation to have. I don't want to be that guy telling people to prepare for the worst. What a buzzkill. So I don't push my opinion on anyone, except here on my YouTube channel where I can speak my mind. It's nice having a YouTube channel where I can say what I want and speak freely and no one can argue with me. The next pushback I get is my friends saying that you have to enjoy life and live in the moment. Look, this is not an excuse to not have an emergency fund. I hate when people say this. It shows poor mental discipline. And look, let's not kid ourselves. Life is ruthless. It is tough, it's difficult, and it's unexpected. But that all changes when you have a big, healthy emergency fund. Life goes from being difficult and negative to fun and abundant with possibilities. I'm actually a super positive person, very optimistic, but it comes from a place of safety. Life can throw me a few curveballs and I should be okay. Therefore, I can actually enjoy my life and make some investments in things that will only make my life more secure. Now, this next bit might sound a little crazy, as I don't even have children or even a girlfriend, but I have a reasonable size investment in Berkshire Hathaway that I have decided is actually not for me, but is the emergency fund of my future family. I want to have an emergency fund for my future wife, future children, and potentially her family as well, as I know so many people don't have an emergency fund. So maybe I've gone too far here, but I'm taking responsibility for my future wife's family as well. So the second step was to decide how to store this emergency fund. Now, I'm open to alternative ideas here. I don't think I actually have a good answer. The problem is this emergency money needs to be quickly accessible, so that rules out real estate completely. We are left with cash, bonds, gold, crypto, and stocks. These are all liquid investments. Well, a liquid investment is something that can be turned into cash within a day or two. So keeping cash under the bed is going to get eaten by inflation. So that sucks. Plus, it's not very secure. My house might burn down and that might be the emergency I need the money for. Then we got bonds, but they don't get much better returns than a savings account in the bank, so that will get eaten by inflation as well. Now, crypto, in my opinion, isn't an option at all because it can fluctuate wildly. Gold value can actually fluctuate a lot as well, and actually the stock market can fluctuate a lot too. So I personally decided to have my emergency money in a savings account in the bank. For me, about $40,000 is my emergency fund, and that only earns about 1% per annum. Look, I know that sucks, and inflation is going to eat that. But look, I don't have a good alternative at the moment. My Berkshire Hathaway investment is actually not for me, that is for my future family, like I said. So that can fluctuate a bit as that is a medium-term emergency fund. I don't need that money right now. But my $40,000 in the bank, well, I could need it tomorrow, I don't know. So I believe health insurance is the most important investment of your life. And for those who can't get reliable health insurance, a big emergency fund is the most important. Work out your yearly needs plus extra for surgery or something like that. Now, I doubled my yearly expenses and that is how I calculated mine. Think about your family, and if you're single like me, think about your future family. And work out somewhere to store your emergency fund. I just keep it in a savings account, which, look, isn't great, but it's the best idea I have right now. So take responsibility for yourself and your loved ones. I promise it will make your life far more positive and more successful because your life will now be based on a strong foundation. If you haven't got health insurance or an emergency fund, well, you really shouldn't be worrying about investing in individual stocks or cryptocurrency or anything like that. You just don't have a strong foundation. I hope this helps some of you, and maybe it actually will help someone you know. You don't have to discuss it with them, just tell them to watch this YouTube video, and then you don't have to be the bad guy and talk about such a depressing topic. Well, look, I don't think it's depressing, but I can see how people think it's negative thinking, even though I think it's actually positive thinking. Now give this video a like if you thought anything I said was valuable. If I get a lot of likes, I'll know that people agree with me. Now hit that dislike button as well if you don't agree, so I can get that feedback too. I can take the criticism. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next video.